Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, the moment is here. One of my favorite episodes to do every single offseason. Top 10 players for Notre Dame rolling into 2025. Now, Dill, as I was creating this list, two things stuck out to me. Number one, the obvious one. This Notre Dame football team has some of the best players in the sport. And we're going to get to those players, but the top end talent on this football team is certainly there, but Dill, the depth. Like, I finished this list and I didn't feel good about myself. Like, looking at all the good football players that I left off the list, and there was two different categories. And there was number one of guys that, I had a really good argument to be on the list, but this is what excites me the most. There's a bunch of guys on this Notre Dame team rolling into 2025 that very well could be on the list in the middle of October. You just need to see a little bit more from them. There's going to be a lot of young cats that are going to be asked to play big time roles for Notre Dame. And Dill, there are a lot of guys that I like a lot. The depth on this football team, very similar to 2024, it's going to be a large part of why this team's going to be so good in the 2025 year. Fired up to get into it. Before we do it, as always, the Notre Dame fans, number one, want to just give a shout out. It's been a blast talking this football team in the summer, specifically on the recruiting trail. The amount of support y'all have shown the boys has been amazing. We appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, let it rip in the comment section. The best part about doing these episodes every single year is, you could pull 100 Notre Dame fans that follow this program really damn closely. You're going to get a different top 10 list from every single one of them. So please let it fly in the comment section, Dill. We certainly have some hot takes incorporated in this list. Without further ado, I'm going to start it off with the transfer from Virginia, wide receiver Malachi Fields. Dill, I'll say this. I'll put my hand up. I don't spend a ton of my Saturdays watching Virginia football, but going back and diving into Malachi Fields, look, the trait you love most about him is the big body that can work vertically down the field, averaging nearly 15 yards per catch. He's a monster after the catch, though. Until you don't necessarily think of him as being the super dynamic yards after the catch guy, but at 6'4", 220, he is a bear for defensive backs to bring down. I think he brings more to this Notre Dame offense than just that vertical, big body, field stretching wide receiver.
I think you said, I think like a really good kind of number two guy, because you probably don't have anything elite in his game that you're like really scares you maybe, but you see the production from that Virginia, like again, gets open really effectively, especially in that intermediate portion of the field that I just thought Notre Dame really struggled to kind of get after teams and open it up a little bit. And that will be what pushes this Notre Dame team over the edge, is the ability to open up more of the field. So I look at him as like a really high quality number two guy. Does he have that elite kind of part of his game that really terrifies you? Maybe not, but like just a really good, dependable number two wide receiver.
And brings a skill set that I think, especially with CJ Carr taking over this offense, you probably said it best. Look, if this Notre Dame football team gets better than they were from the 2024 year going into 2025, I think it's going to have a lot to do with the vertical passing attack. CJ Carr is more equipped to push the ball vertically down the field, and I think you have wide receivers who are more equipped to attack vertically down the field. Malachi Fields, big part of it. Really like this kid's game. Number 9, hot take, Dill. Hot take right off the bat. Emil Wagner coming in at 9. Now, I checked some Notre Dame message boards and just kind of tried to get a feel for where they see Emil Wagner. And Dill, the Notre Dame fans are higher on Emil Wagner than I am. Now, let's get one thing straight. This dude is physically imposing in the run game. Highest graded run blocker on the football team per PFF last year. The film checks out. Dill, the pass protection left a little bit to be desired. Now, I have him at number 9. To me, that should excite Notre Dame fans. This kid was solid as a young cat last year. I think there's a lot of room for improvement really for this whole offensive line when it comes to pass protection going into 2025. If Emil Wagner takes that step, you're looking at one of the best tackles in the country. I just think there's probably a little bit more meat left on the bone than maybe some Notre Dame fans think.
And especially because he was better in the area that I would have thought would have been the problem. Because you look, when he was coming in a little bit shy of 300 pounds, that's like, oh, is he going to be able to, like, when they go play a team like Georgia or those big teams, is he going to be able to move guys around a little bit? And he was able to do that. And that's what's interesting is I would have thought like the pass protecting frames there, he's really long. He's a really good athlete. He's just got to polish the skill set up a little bit at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Because against the top tier teams, I didn't think the pass.
You said it best. That's how I would best say it. Like when you are playing those national championship caliber teams, because that's the vision we have for this Notre Dame team. Like, how can we get over the hump and win a national championship? We got to be better against those teams. And if Emil Wagner can do that, you're looking at one of the better tackles in the country. More to clean up than maybe some people think. Still really like Emil Wagner. Number 8 on the list, Christian Gray, doesn't get as much excitement or as much media buzz because we got a couple other really good cats in the secondary. Really good football player. 35 tackles, 8 pass breakups, 3 interceptions, a 58% completion percentage when targeted. And Dill, he saw a lot of targets. Like anytime you are playing for Notre Dame and your name is not Leonard Moore, you're going to get a lot of footballs thrown your way. 6 penalties is a little bit high. 18% missed tackle rate. Would like to see that come down. I think Christian Gray, very, very good football player that probably doesn't get talked enough for this Notre Dame football team.
Yeah, in good like players like him, those just really steady pieces. Again, is he Leonard Moore great? No, he's not Leonard Moore great, but he's really dependable. He pretty much game in, game out. You know what you're getting from him, and that is a huge asset. Like to be that type of number 2 cornerback on this type of team, really, really quality player. Again, isn't not Leonard Moore, but that's not many people are.
Nobody is. I think he's a top 10. Leonard Moore, and we'll get to him. I think Leonard Moore is a top 10 player in the country, regardless of position, in 2025. Number 7 on the list. And Dale, this was the one I gave a little bit of projection to, right? Bryce Young. Now, is Bryce Young currently, from what we've seen from this cat, a top 10 player on this roster? No, probably not. But do I think we saw enough from him as a true freshman to put him on the list? Yeah, I do.
I
It's a
think
little
towards the end of the year, you started to see like top 10 player on this Notre Dame team
agreed.
quite frankly emerge. Like at the USC, I thought the Georgia game, he really came alive and was super disruptive. Again, I thought like the pass rushing, like arsenal, let's say, started to come along because the tools are there. I mean, to be that long, to be that smooth of a mover at that size, I mean, he's like destined to be an excellent pass rusher. But I did start to see him be a little bit more comfortable, kind of like chaining his pass rushes together and getting to the quarterback pretty reliably. I thought towards the end of the year he was really starting to put it together.
I'll say this, I was stunned with how quick he was ready to play. You know, when we broke his commitment down out of high school, it's like, hey, really tradesy football player that's probably going to need a redshirt year. He didn't need a redshirt year. He was a quality rotational piece as a true freshman. Really did a nice job filling out the frame. This is another storyline for Notre Dame, at least in my opinion. We talked about the vertical passing attack with CJ Carr and the weapons on the outside. The other thing I think can elevate Notre Dame, these edge rushers, because I think their potential is monstrous. When you talk about Bryce Young, when you talk about a guy like Bubakar, those are guys that might be top 50 NFL draft picks. That was something that Notre Dame kind of lacked last year. You know, a lot of the disruption and pass rush production came from the inside of the defensive line. If they can get those absolute stallions going off the edge, Bryce Young and Bubakar, that's what takes this team to another level in 2025, or at least another reason Notre Dame can kind of take another jump in the 2025 year. Number 6. Is this a little low for Adon Schuler? I'll give you the T-box here.
I love Adon Schuler. I look at like again what he does against like premier tight ends. Like in that Georgia game, I thought he was one of the best players on the field for that Notre Dame team in terms of his ability to shut those guys down in man coverage. Like again, has the side speed, kind of like I almost feel like he's a Cam Chancellor like player where like for certain situations he's about as good as it gets. I think probably needs to be a little bit more consistent open field tackling. Maybe you take that level up a little bit. I think he had a real hammer, but for what they ask him to do in those situations, especially against tight ends, I don't know if there's a guy who does it better in the country.
He is a uniquely gifted athlete for a lot of those situations, a kind of defensive chess piece that not a lot of teams have, and the kind of defensive chess piece you need if you want to compete at the highest level of the sport. The thing that jumped out, you can point to the stats: 59 tackles, 5 pass breakups, 3 interceptions, nothing to scoff at. It's the versatility, kind of what you said. His ability to get involved in the run, 16 run stops last year, the ability to line up as a box defender, single high safety, come up and play the nickel. He played so much football all over the field for Notre Dame. That versatility is hugely valuable. Hugely valuable for this Notre Dame
And
defense.
probably got a little overshadowed by Xavier Watts, and I don't mean to, like, take a shot at Xavier
No,
Watts because he was incredible for Notre
no.
Dame, so I get it, but I think he's a really good safety for sure.
Number 5, Drake Bowen. They'll look at this is another guy that I think there's meat left on the bone here.
Yeah.
78 tackles, 4 TFLs, 1 sack, 5.7% missed tackle rate. Dylan, can you find me a linebacker that logs 75 plus tackles with that low of a missed tackle percentage? I don't think you can. So that's where it starts. 22 run stops, second on the team, only to Jack Kaiser. Can we be a little bit more of a difference maker? Can you go from being a really good linebacker to putting your fingerprint all over that football game? I want to see more than 4 TFLs. I want to see more than 1 sack. And maybe as he goes into year 3, we start asking him to do a little bit more. Really, really good linebacker, about as steady of a linebacker as it gets going into 2025. Can you go out and be a difference maker for me in 2025? That's the question I have for Drake
Because
Bowen.
he's got more of an athletic upside than, like, a Jack Kaiser. I mean, he's
Oh, yeah.
bigger. I think he's a much better athlete. I look like he should be able to have more of, like, an Anthony Hill Jr., like, from Texas type impact on a football game. I think there's more they can get from him. And again, like, the floor now is really, really high because it would, like, to be that type of linebacker where you don't really make any mistakes and you just do what you do and you're really,
Yeah.
really
And now here's the question I have for you, Dale. Is that how they're going to maybe use a guy like Snead or Kingston Viliamu and say, hey, Drake Bowen, we're just going to treat you like we know we can treat you as just a very solid off-ball backer. Maybe you let the leash off a guy like Kingston or a guy like Snead. I don't know.
But even from that position, he should be able to be like, again, get in the backfield more. Like,
Yeah,
even just
sure.
from being like the traditional middle linebacker, I think he can have, or he can do more. I think he can be more for that team just by picking his game up a little bit because he's got the athletic profile that, again, Notre Dame probably hasn't had at linebacker maybe over the last couple of years. I think his upside
Dude.
might be like higher than Jack Kaiser type players.
The 100%. And that's not a shot at Jack Kaiser, but you look at Drake Bowen, you look at Kingston, you look at Snead, you look at Madden coming in as a freshman. The athletic profiles that Notre Dame has that linebacker a little bit different than we're used to seeing. And that kind of is a nice segue into how we've talked about Notre Dame on the recruiting trail. It's recruiting a little bit of a different level athlete, I think, at the linebacker spot. Number 4, Billy Scroft, nothing flashy, man. This dude, when he was on the football field and healthy, just so solid, so solid in pass protection, Dill, so heady. Like, go back to that Georgia game, and like, I don't think Notre Dame's offensive line performed great against Georgia, and Georgia was throwing the kitchen sink at that young offensive line. Billy was handling everything, and Dill can climb to the second level and get involved in the run game as well. This is one of the cleanest guards that you see in the country in 2025.
I'm really excited to see what he can be. I don't know that you give him enough credit for his ability to move guys around. Like, I love his physicality there. I don't really see holes in his game. I think he is really good. I think he has that, again, that like what Notre Dame wants out of their offensive linemen in the run game to be able to move guys off the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
I think he was the guy who was doing it to me consistently for that team. He's the best offensive lineman on a really good offensive line. You got to be up here.
Dude, I'll say this. I feel like people don't appreciate how good Notre Dame has a chance to be on the offensive line. And I feel like it starts with, Notre Dame ran the football so well last year that I feel like a lot of people saying the praises of Notre Dame's offensive line. And I ain't getting up here saying it was a bad unit. I mean, this was a team that just competed for a national championship. I think there's levels this unit can jump going into 2025. I'm excited about this unit. Number 3, this is my bold take. Jaden Greathouse coming in. I get it. This is high. I get it. This is high. 42 catches, 592, 4 touchdowns. When he got involved, and I just feel like they didn't involve this kid enough. A 79% completion percentage when targeted last year on 14.1 yards per catch. You're not going to see a receiver that averages 14 plus yards per catch and also has a 79% completion percentage when targeted. Doesn't drop passes. The last 2 games when we said, hey, Jaden Greathouse is a dude, let's get him the football, 13 catches for 233 yards and a tutter. bona fide wide receiver one. I think he has a chance to be one of the best wide receivers in the country in 2025. And again, you talk about some of the most important players to break out in 2025. Jaden Greathouse at the top of the list, and I think this kid's an absolute stud.
In plain and simple, they didn't have the offensive scheme or quarterback to run
I
that
agree.
scheme
I agree.
to really unlock him and get the best out of him. But you said it, like when they were forced to almost play that type of football, both in the Penn State game towards like being down in the second half, being down to Notre Dame in the second half, when they had to kind of play almost the offense, I think they're probably going to play a little bit more of this year because I look at the weapons, I look at CJ Carr, I think they'll just be more balanced and throw the ball around the field a little bit more. Jaden Greathouse was awesome. I think in that type of offense, he can really thrive. That Ohio State second half, like that's really high level wide receiver he was
Yeah.
playing.
And look, I don't know if I'm putting too much stock into that, but that's one of the only times where we saw Jaden Greathouse have opportunity to be a difference maker. And when he had those opportunities,
He was great.
he was great. And I think he's so important to getting CJ Carr acclimated and comfortable early because he's one of those guys that I just know how to get open. I know how to be a big pass catching target. One of the most important players for this Notre Dame team in 2025. The last two, I mean, Leonard Moore, Dill, I think this kid is a top 10 player in the country, probably. A 46% completion percentage when targeted, had 56 targets, gave up one penalty, barely missed any tackles. You can't really find a flaw in his game. And then, Dill, number one, Jeremiah Love, it best running back in the country. Another guy that's a top 10 player in the country. You ain't going to find running backs that run the way Jeremiah Love does in terms of straight line explosiveness. Sub 11-second guy in the 100-meter dash, 62 missed tackles forced, 711 yards after contact, like a physical running back that can also hit the home run play that he didn't fumble it once. He's a dog. I want to get your take on this. These are the players I left off. And, I feel bad about it. The name that sticks out to me, Charles Jagusah. He's, when healthy, Notre Dame's best offensive lineman. Obviously, this dude is so talented and has just struggled with injuries. Not sure when he's going to get back yet. If he comes back and he plays like he did in the playoff game, he's probably the best offensive lineman on this football team. Who are the other guys that you felt like got snubbed on the list here?
Jalen Sneed's probably my first one, and he's just a guy I almost feel like needs to be on the field more because, I look at
Where are you going to put him?
He play him where he I almost feel like Osbury plays more than Osbury maybe should, and that's not because Osbury's bad. That's because Jalen Sneed, the way he comes off the edge and makes plays happen. He can cover, obviously. That rover position that he plays when teams go to more of a spread look on Notre Dame, I just think he's I watched that USC game. I thought he was so good. I think he'd take blocks on. I think he'd make play. I think he's awesome. I just think
the other name, sorry to interrupt, Boubacar is a guy that I think could be comfortably on this list. And from what we saw before the injury, I'd almost put him on the list. Dude, that's the big story. Bryce Young, Boubacar, can those guys be dudes for Notre Dame? This defense gets better. Kingston Villiam-Musa, certainly could be on the list. And then Jadarian Price, quite frankly.
I was going to say, if Jeremiah Love wasn't that good, but Jadarian Price is definitely on this list.
He also probably just should be on the list, period. He was awesome last year, too. It's a deep team, and it's a really talented team. And if things fall together, some of the things we talked about.
One thing I kind of think probably 2 or 3 more guys need to get to the level Leonard Moore and Jeremiah Love are playing because those are such monsters. They're when you talk best players in the game, those are those two might be top 10 both. Both
I agree.
I think you need a couple like a Bryce Young or a Drake Bowen to start playing at that level. Because again, I feel like especially a guy like Bryce Young, he has that. That's athletic.
They got a bunch of guys who have that, in my opinion. And then it's just that's probably the storyline of Notre Dame. This is such a freaking solid football team that checks so many boxes. Can we get and I don't mean to say can we get the Jeremiah Smiths? But can we get those guys that put us over the hump in the national championship game? That's what you're looking for. And he's got to be more than just Jeremiah Love.
There's so many young guys playing who are kind of getting close to that level.
Yeah, I agree.
Make it happen.
Is it? I don't think it's crazy to say Notre Dame's very well can be a better football team this year than last year.
100%.
Yeah, it's maybe a little bit less of a known commodity team because you have a lot more young talent and you have a first-year starter in CJ Carr. So there's a little bit more unknown. I'll say this is kind of how I've talked about Oregon this year. Like Oregon, you have question marks about the football team, but you also got a lot of potential answers and probably a more talented Oregon team than we saw in 2024. I'd probably
And then
argue the same thing.
And the injuries are probably the big one. If they just stay healthy, like they get better because their injuries, they got it as bad as anyone. I felt like.
No, not even close. All right. We'll sign out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. One of the best episodes to do every single off season, and we'll talk to y'all later.